Yeah, got him. Holy fuck.
See those gains? Those are the gains that people in gyms are aspiring to.
I mean, do you know?
Maybe he's not too old to actually become president. You know that, right?
Do you know what to use the shells for?
He's still
Guys,
too
Jesus
not born in
Christ.
the United States.
All right. Hi, guys. Good afternoon. Eric is sick as a dog, so you've got Caleb, Mistwarden, and I. Or at least I think you will once Eric manages to fix. There we go. We've got some interesting stuff to talk about, and I have no idea what you tuned into, but this wouldn't be Push to Talk if you weren't tuning in to some weird conversation.
It's a feature.
It is
not a bug.
It is a feature, not a bug.
We've learned this from CCP.
So yeah, I think right out of the gate, we're going to start off by talking about EVE Vegas 2020. Last night, the dates were released, so that's happening October 23rd and 24th this year. And yeah, it looks set to be a really good weekend. Tickets are available on Eventbrite, and we have a website to give to Eric so that he can drop a link in chat. Or is it going to let me? It lets me do it. Well, hey.
Yay!
So yeah, go to the website, check out what we've got planned, and yeah, get your tickets now. Really? No hype, guys?
No, chat's already jumping the gun on the mineral topic, so...
On the subject of Vegas, you should, if you were one of those people who says, I don't like San Francisco or wherever, Santa Fe, wherever CCP is taking it to, and you want to go back to the Vegas, and you want to go party with the goons in Sin City, you should totally go to this event. Give it some support. Give the good people who have stepped out, put their... I don't know how much money they've got in the game. They've got like a block rate at a hotel. That's probably cost a few pennies to be able to get locked in. They've got a plan. They're actually communicating. That's apparently costs a lot because CCP doesn't give that to us much these days. So
what
if you want to go...
plan?
I don't know. Maybe you've got a plan, like a timetable for Vegas.
As in, is there like a schedule for events and stuff, or?
I mean, like an actual, some sort of idea rather than they give it 1 week of DDoSing and then maybe we'll come out and talk about it type of communication.
I'm so confused, Mist.
I'm basically saying
you just
that...
like...
Congratulations on Mistwardening the conversation, Mist.
Basically, I'm saying support player-run events.
Yes, definitely do that. That's a really good statement.
Sure.
And on that note, let's segue into some of the stuff that chat wants to talk about, I guess. Caleb, you had some opinions on the mineral thing.
I don't have an opinion. I just have a smug face.
Was that what you're calling it?
Pretty much.
He's been ripping into everyone all week, right?
Why are you
I've been
smug?
maximum smugging.
Why are you smug?
We've been talking about something needed to be done about scarcity and depletion and how you actually get resources in Eve. At least Dirk McGurk and myself have been pretty much banging on this drum for at least 3 years, and it's been completely ignored up until very recently. And I don't know if this is a panic move from CCP, but at least something is being done. It just looks a little bit too much, too fast, and not enough details being communicated. But again, we'll have to wait and see exactly what's going to be rolling out, right? Because personally, I'm a little bit excited about the fact that they put someone sort of skilled for this on the job to actually run this out.
Okay, I know who you're talking about, and while I'm cautiously optimistic about him, I am wary and absolutely not at all optimistic about the mineral plan.
Does somebody want to fill the viewers in on who we're talking about?
I don't, because I can't pronounce his name.
What, Ratati, or I can't remember his name. Goddamn.
Just use the other name, right? Rintington. It's actually.
See, this is what I wanted to avoid doing.
Snorri. That's it, Snorri.
Sure.
Yes,
but...
CCP Ratati.
Okay, there you go. CCP Ratati. See, I didn't want to wind up with the viewers calling him CCP Ratatouille.
That's a completely different comic. Stop mixing your comics around this. You should know better.
Anyway,
oh dear.
He's
Chat. Come on.
No, guys, he's a guy who has a lot of experience on the financial end of things. He's been with CCP a long time. What he's going to be doing of overseeing the Eve ecosystem, it potentially it could be right in his wheelhouse, and he could be fine. He's not somebody to get upset about or get stressed about. It's probably a good choice. This is CCP, so we can't actually, categorically say, no, this guy will be up to the job, because God knows we've thought that in the past.
Well, it's like I was explaining to Caleb earlier, right? This guy's got the creds. He looks good. But we don't know if Hilmar or someone's going to step in and interfere and fuck it all up.
Right.
See, this is my biggest concern.
Yeah. That's why the way they announced the whole slew of changes coming with minerals has me extremely worried, because they've been looking at the Rorqual and the way it's been used, and the way and the usage patterns and mining patterns across the game have had years now to stabilize and be consistent. We've had the blackout. We've seen how those usage patterns changed. We see how the usage patterns changed afterwards. Why do they still need to collect data?
Because they can't store their data correctly, as we see with the MER every month.
Most of all, they are doing the same fucking dumb thing again they did with the blackout, where because of the way they are doing the data collection, they are skewing their own numbers. Because obviously, if you announce a change like that, the market is going to react, right? Which will change your numbers.
We've already seen the market reacting. A number of minerals are up by more than 100% on their Jita price in all of 2 days. So, yeah, this is going really well so far.
What you just said, ironically, I'm just going to emphasize that that's actually exactly what we would want in a situation that is supposed to function the way that CCP claimed that they're trying to roll this out, right? You need some sort of instant starvation period first. I'm not saying that if this goes on for too long, if this ends up like some sort of blackout thing, it's going to be horrible. But this is actually a necessity. You want to say, okay, these are the directions of our changes, and then you will see the market react and the behavior react pretty panicky first.
You are not
you're rolling out.
Caleb, hold up a second here. How long do you consider too long?
I would say anything more than 4 to 6 weeks of actual starvation would be bad.
Because if they're collecting data, they don't start having good data for 3 weeks.
Yeah. I mean,
the first week is going to be the overreaction. The second week is going to be the beginning of compensation. Starting with week 3, you now have good data. And so if you're saying 4 to 6 weeks is too much, 3 weeks is not enough time to begin to get a trend line.
Yeah,
For
because
the very time when you're saying is too much is where they're just starting to have usable trends.
Yeah, you're right. And what I would correct that with is I would never do this extreme kind of starvation for the sake of sampling, because there are way more intelligent ways of sampling, even if you're doing things in smaller increments, right? And especially with someone, again, now we're going back to Ratati, right? With someone like Ratati, he's actually capable of doing this opposed to any of the other people that's been doing data sampling and data analysis in CCP recently. This guy can actually do it. He knows how to do this.
Well, I'm not going to say that the people CCP have had on their projects can't do data sampling, can't do data analysis, but they don't necessarily understand the economics end of it enough to know what they're looking at. Like they can get the numbers and they can, produce usable samples. They just might not have the economic know-how to really read them.
Well, I mean, this comes back to, Caleb, you mentioned that you've been banging on the scarcity drum for years now. And a lot of people have been banging on that drum in different ways. Basically everyone who's anyone that knows anything at all has been concerned about Rorquals for, well, since before they were introduced as the new big thing for mining. And
that's an important point of emphasis, since before they were released.
Yeah, like as is pretty typical when CCP does major releases. When it came to the Rorqual changes, people looked at the changes that were proposed, went, "This will be game breaking, and here is how we will abuse it." And CCP heard that, and then they quite promptly sidestepped and went right on barreling ahead anyway.
And then people abused it as they said they would.
And people abused it as they said they would, and have continued to abuse it, despite the fact that CCP have introduced a number of nerfs to the Rorqual in recent years. Simply by, okay, well, if I have 5 Rorquals, and you make my 5 Rorquals now worth 4 Rorquals, I guess I'm just adding a 6th and a 7th character. And so the answer has always been scale horizontally. Get more Rorquals to account for these nerfs. And this is obviously what CCP has seen people doing, and recognized that actually what they were doing with the Rorqual was a bad thing. They weren't nerfing it in the right way. But instead of continuing to nerf the way in which people acquire minerals and physical resources, they went, let's nerf the spigot of those resources itself. And I don't think that was the right approach, because the issue has never been the availability of resources. The issue has always been the rate of acquisition of those resources.
And I think that's what they're going for, and it ties into what I'm going to have to scroll up in chat a second, but somebody just said the lumper, right? He said the collect data narrative is a smokescreen. They're trying to reset the baseline. Yeah, I think that's what it is. They're running the stockpiles down. The data they're collecting is, where are the stockpiles at?
Sure. And
then it's going to be, okay, now we can implement the new systems that make it slower to obtain stuff, because we've at least cleared the stockpiles out and there's no whatever.
They should just say that.
They should.
As it turns out, we are very good as a group, as a player base, of understanding that sometimes hard changes have to happen, and this might hurt. We just want to know what the hell they're doing, and this boils back down to their communication issues. But we'll sidestep into that in a little bit. Like, I think Azure and Argent tried to bait me in Twitch chat a little earlier by asking whether or not skill injectors were a mistake, and somebody in later on in Twitch chat was going, this entire conversation just boils down to SP farming breaking it.
That was nightmare a minute ago, yeah.
SP farming breaks it. Skill injectors break it. The fact that you can get your alts into Rorquals in 5 minutes flat if you have the cash is a bad thing.
Not just that, Dirk, but if they nerf Rorquals off the bat, okay, I pull the 20 million in my Rorqual out of SP, I sell half of it to make the money back, and I dump one injector into an ult and keep doing that through 20 odd ults, and now I have 20 mining barges, which are just
barges are a bit more harder to manage. The thing
they
is,
are, but I'm saying in the case of Rorquals just being nerfed into the floor, people would just move to barges.
Yeah, we've mentioned the word starving a lot, and we said a lot about starving the minerals, but they're not really starving the game at the moment. They've only really taken like the big options off the menu. There's plenty of other options, as we discussed in our pre-show, didn't we?
Okay, so Brisk's just come up with a good point in Twitch chat. Injectors weren't a mistake. They worked exactly as CCP intended, and they made them a shit ton of money. And that's true.
If that's
CCP
all they
definitely
intended,
made
yes.
a ton of money off skill injectors.
Specifically on skill injectors for pushing people into Rorquals.
And also super caps.
Yeah, but the Rorqual changes came out pretty much with the skill injectors or immediately after the skill injectors, and were blatantly and admittedly here's something to inject a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but like as with everything that CCP kind of do, they did this thing, and then here we are 3-4 years later going, well, this is a major cause of a lot of the issues that we're seeing today. CCP are trying to address stagnation. Stagnation falls pretty much right at the doorstep of skill injectors and super capital proliferation, and just the way the game is played now.
Right, but there's okay. I yes, that's true. It's just that going at that isn't really going to. They're not gonna get rid of skill injectors.
No, they're
Let's
not.
face it, they're not. So railing about skill injectors isn't going to get us anywhere. It's just,
no, but it might get us a rebalancing paths of skills and skill requirements, right?
It won't.
Well, okay, I'm not going to put all my faith in one guy. I'm not going to do a CCP rise with Ratati, but considering his background and considering his data analysis experience, if he doesn't end up at least suggesting some sort of change to SP farming as well, I would be very surprised, because a lot of the problems kind of stems from that too, right? So if they leave that one alone, then all of this stuff that they're doing now is kind of useless.
Yeah, and they're going to leave that alone because that's part of their revenue stream.
It makes them money. Not just that, but there's no truly fundamental way they can change it that doesn't affect their revenue stream, but stops it being so damaging.
Again, I would not agree on that in any shape or form, because anything they change is just going to change the benefit and the utility of that stream into the game. So if they change something like SP farming mechanics and the requirements of skills, thus making it effectively more costly from a credit card warrior into the effective utility in game, changing that does not destroy anything, and it doesn't necessarily even destroy their revenue stream. Maybe a little bit on the incentive of why you want to credit card warrior, but we have not seen the behavior that people keep arguing. This is very similar to the whole discussion of pay to win in other games, right? That people say that, oh, then I won't play the game and I won't pay any money. And when they then make these changes, they end up actually paying more. So this is a little bit about psychology and what is the utility of the real money that you put into this game. And since CCP is still in positive revenue and they have actually been increasing their quarterly profits, I don't really see these behaviors actually happening. I think it's just us saying that we are going to do something, and it's not actually what we think we're going to do.
That is not true, though.
Their blackout numbers were not increasing their revenue.
Yeah,
no.
that revenue
They
went down
crashed.
for
They
that
crashed
quarter.
with the blackout. I admit that.
But
We
Caleb,
should have actually seen the Q4 earnings
Yes.
call earlier
Yeah,
this week, I think.
Noisy broke it down. Basically, they're up since last quarter. He attributes it to what you call it, the Korean influx, and
Well,
only
and they're
because of
even
that.
up on the quarter before that, right? They are up on the quarter that was actually before the blackout. So
I mean, are we
not just
talking?
stable? It's still growing.
Are we really talking about login numbers being up in win?
No,
Like-
profits being
We're
up.
talking about profits.
So what?
And the thing
Isn't
is,
that normal?
the profits and the login numbers weren't where they would have otherwise been had they not done the blackout.
hmm
Like, we can see that in terms of the year-on-year trend. We barely managed to get, to the summer numbers in terms of our winter high this year. And so, evidently, CCP are doing something that isn't positive here, even if they are returning more revenue and returning more profit.
The problem with Caleb's argumentation is that if you do push for more quote unquote pay to win stuff, you will absolutely lose players. You will probably not lose revenue because you have the whales who put more money into the game. The problem is, once the player numbers start dropping down significantly, those whales will have less and less reason to inject money into the game. Because once there is no one they can play with, they will just move on to another game to put their money in.
I mean, you guys probably remember it. We saw it at Battlefront 2. The new one, not the old one, right? Where they had the entire hit show about it's pay to win, and the whales were there like, we'll happily,
thing.
yeah, and the whales were like, we'll happily pay that, and then everyone else boycotted it, and EA went, the whales aren't enough to offset this.
And most of all,
we need to change it, or we lose the game within the first 2 weeks.
And most of all, the whales don't have anyone to play with.
Exactly, so they were walking because they couldn't fight anyone. Sorry, Hugo.
I really don't know what to comment on that, but because I know that regardless of what I say, I'm going to be shut down. But the argument is kind of valid that Soth is trying to make. The problem is that he's then conflating two things that are not necessarily the same, right? The people that want the gameplay that he's talking about might actually not be the whales that are consistently putting money into the game. I am scared that it's actually exactly the opposite, that the people that are credit card warrioring to the extent that they have been doing over the past, 5 years at least, are more care bearish and actually not the content creators. They are more the Roku owners and the people that have pretty much stagnated and destroyed this game. Because I think that CCP has pretty much been doing the equivalent to a very, very slow pay to win and easy mode development of EVE for the last 10 years. And the fact that they are now starting to realize that this is not how you create a game like this long term is really positive.
Caleb, I'm not saying that the credit card warriors are the ones going out shooting shit. But once there is nothing left to do because there's no one undocking, do you really think that the Care Bears will keep going into the belts and into the sites?
Well,
I mean,
kind
that's
of,
the thing, right?
that's what we have had for the past 10 years. They keep playing, even
But
though
Caleb,
everything is less valuable, less newsworthy, less interesting. They don't care about things like real value. They care about nominal value and whether or not they get into their Titan and what their skill points are. That's all they care.
the thing is, though, there has to be an end game for them still, right? They can add Rorquals all they want, which is fine, but they then want to sell the ore to pay the accounts because they're not paying it out of their wallets most of the time, for the accounts at least, when it comes to the Rockwall people. Thus, if they can't sell the ore on the market because there's no one fighting, they can't do anything.
Making assumptions about their end game there, Caleb,
True.
and what they're actually after. I mean, most of the industrial Care Bears, shall we say, who have like, bazillions of Rorqual ults, either they've already got their Titans or they're not shooting for anything bigger than the Rorqual.
Well, that's because there pretty much isn't anything less, more than a Rorqual or a Titan. They kind of peaked out. They are sitting there passively with their max level fucking WoW character, and now they are starting to maybe get a little bit bored because what's the next phase? Except that was not the Eve that I used to play, and this has been by design. This is CCP's design. It's not the player's fault. It's not the whale's fault. It's not even the PvPers and the big orcs' fault, right? This is not goons destroying Eve. It's CCP's design that they decided to start in around 2011-12, and they've consistently just made everything less and less important.
See, I mean, okay, you bring up 2011 roughly. Like that, you want to talk about drums that have been being hit on for years now. I've been on we are in a similar to Incarna Crisis kind of level for 2 years at least, where CCP need to actually go back. They need to look at what they want the game to be, how they get it there, and then they need to really focus on readdressing the balance in the game and the way people interact with the content that is available, rather than just bringing out new stuff and shiny new things and distractions. And then what they need to do is they need to sit down and communicate it to us. They need to actually go, okay, here are the issues. Here are what we want to be seeing and addressing and why we think this is necessary. This is where we're going to go, and this is how long it's going to take us. And they need to do the same kind of release process that as they did after Incarna, after the Greed is Good scandal, all the rest of it. We need to see that kind of level of dedication again.
Yeah, and I think you're very close to the most important point, right? Who have we lost along the way, and what did that actually mean to the game design and the direction of EVE Online? And there's a very controversial topic here that I'm actually very scared of throwing out there, but I think this hails all the way back to the fact that the vision that people were surviving on in the period after Incarna was Siegel's vision. And that opens up a whole can of worms of what went wrong with Siegel's leadership, what went right, and why did it not land in a good place, right? And what happened when she left? How was the transition from her leadership and into what we have now, this weird triumvirate with one guy being invisible, another one being sort of like the cheerleader of the CEO coming back to kind of take over the reins. It's like I'm actually a fan of Hilmer on principle, but what he's doing right now has not really been my favorite cup of tea. And I'm actually positively looking forward to see what Rattati can actually do with the changes and being involved in, I don't know if it's going to be 4 guys or it's going to be some sort of triumvirate where Hilmer then goes into the background.
Nobody knows anymore. Nobody has any real idea what the fuck is happening at CCP and why they are making the decisions that they are making. And, you know, I think CCP Dopamine's a great guy. I think CCP Convict's a great guy. But, like, we're not hearing anything. We're just seeing, like, dev blogs on moon mineral distribution. And no offense, but that dev blog is a joke for the sheer scale of what they're talking about doing and the way they seem to be suggesting that these things will be happening.
Well, if your food is information, you're going to end up anorexic on that one. But anyways, the point is that there's so many things that have been happening over the past 2 years that's been a little bit of a mess, right? So I'm still saying that this can only end in a positive direction. And I would like to just point out that when we were talking about faucets and sinks, right, and the Rorqual and ship rebalancing and barges, the point that Dirk McGurk and myself have pretty much been banging on about for almost 3 years is that you do not solve this issue by changing anything about the tools you use to put out a fire, right? If the fire is too big, no amount of water is going to quench it. It's pretty much a dumb attempt of solving the problem, right? This is the bringing a different size cup to the fire chain. It doesn't change anything, right? The problem exists in the core of the game, and that's where you need to hit it. But we've also said doing that in a binary way with an on and or off switch is just stupid. It needs to be gradual, because you can't pretty much just hard lock the resource capability in EVE. That's just dumb, because it needs to always be scalable to the gameplay of the player.
Here's my issue with all of this, okay? And it goes beyond just they're not telling us anything. But they're not telling us anything is a big part of it. I don't trust them to finish a single project. They never have.
I mean, that's the other thing here, right, with this rebalance. If we're talking 6 to 8 months, maybe, for the mineral and mining and whatever, are we sure it's not just going to end up like Citadel, where we're sat here 5 years later?
Yeah,
I mean,
we're
sat here 5 years after it was announced, with like 2/3 of the functionality they were talking.
And it's not even like they're not finished in the sense that they don't even have parity with pauses. So like,
what do they still not have with pauses?
They still don't have the ability to be dropped in, 40 minutes and be online and functional. And see, they were talking about some sort of flex structure that would have that capability, so that people could, the basic thing about pauses that is still not functional is the ability to have some sort of relatively safe beachhead in a very short order that can also be very quickly removed by people who find it offensive. And they've still not finished that. Who knows?
That's what they said would be the gap. They said this is the thing that we need to think. We need to have some sort of thing you can just set up as your beachhead to spearhead. Until we've got that, posses will remain. However, we will reach a period when we just kill off posses. So I saw a posse the other day and I was like, is this still legal? Are we still allowed to use this?
Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing, right? We were being told posses would be gone by winter 2019/20.
And the point that people have been making now is that CCP doesn't seem to finish or complete the iteration process that they have promised or that was planned or actually even needed, right? Whether you're talking about things like skill points, or whether you're talking about moon mining or structures, all of these things, at the core, it's a really good idea, and it's very important to the health of EVE, and I support it 100%. But every single one of these things have been hitting the game in a way that's only 2/3 finished, exactly like Arenda said. It's just not right. It's not polished. It's not balanced, and it's being abused by a player base that, at least as a wisdom of a crowd, is just smarter than the developers.
And I'm not even going to say it's smarter than the developers. It's just that, they haven't been able to finish things. And this is a pattern with CCP. This is a pattern with CCP that goes back a long time. Like, this goes back before and this is something that I think I mentioned it to Dirk yesterday during a meeting, or maybe the day before or something. When CCP owned White Wolf and they were going to do the World of Darkness MMO, the thing that killed the World of Darkness MMO wasn't their developers, it wasn't the material, it wasn't the developers not knowing what the hell they were doing. It was just that every time they started to get some traction management would come in and say, okay, listen, all of that stuff we had you doing, no. We're going to go and do this other thing now, and we're going to start over. And they had to start over. And so 3, 4, 5 times they basically had to build the basics of an MMO, and then CCP poached the art staff for walking in.
To anyone that's in doubt, what Rendus is doing right now is he's trying to make me cry.
I mean, we're always trying to make you cry, Caleb. It's
Yeah, but he's very close to succeeding.
But yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about the fact that Morrisith in chat says, "Man, so much complaining. I've been away from the game for 6 months and I still hear the same complaining." And you know, Morrisith's hearing the same complaining 6 months down the line. I've been talking about Incarna and the fact that we need to be back there in terms of that attitude for years. Caleb's been talking about resource scarcity for years.
I would just like to point out, Morris is talking about, I've been away from the game for 6 months. We're talking about issues that have been going on for over a decade. 6 months?
Well, yeah, but you know, everyone is seeing the issues still exist over these periods of time that are actually not insignificant. But nothing seems to be happening. So, like, does anybody have any idea? How do we actually get CCP to listen up and...
I've said this every week, right?
I think we've touched upon this in voice, in private, a lot when we talk about CCP, because we don't always want to sound nasty on air. But this is very much about the whole corporate culture in CCP and how they work. And I keep being a little bit apologetic because I keep pointing out that this is because CCP has not really had the real natural growth of a corporation. If you compare them to anyone else in their business or in other businesses, they just haven't had the same growth phases and getting into new things or product development. Every time they've tried to make a second or third product, right, they've pretty much fallen flat on their face for reasons that the player base had warned them about. Like, guys, you're about to make a big mistake, and they make it anyways. And when they don't actually succeed, then they come back and they almost claim that it's the customer's fault. It's like they just don't seem to want to succeed. I don't know what is going on in there, because they have so many good ideas. They have such a skilled crew there, right? And they should have grown into at least 3 or 4 times as big a corporation long ago. But they keep making these dumb mistakes. Arendis just pointed out one of them, the White Wolf purchase, right? The fact that they didn't actually make money out of that is just tragic, because that is one of the best possible synergies you could ever buy if you have something like CCP.
It's beyond tragic. Bloodlines was a certified fucking smash. And we don't get Bloodlines 2 for more than 10 years because we don't get it until CCP sells the company.
Yeah, I mean, and just to point out that the fact that the White Wolf crew was massively talented in what they did, that they didn't actually say, okay, wait a minute, you should make books and shit and lore and pen and paper game and all this merchandise potential stuff for CCP. It's just so dumb, right? They got the IP to do the computer stuff and the game development. That's CCP's role, not White Wolves. White Wolves should be used for what they are good at, lore and pumping out books, and they didn't do that. It's like, what have you been thinking?
Can we talk about how they kind of haven't actually even removed minerals properly from the game?
You want to talk about the workaround?
Fal, are you on about the high sec or no sec workaround?
I'm on about all of it. So we've had a lot of people, we're talking, right, it's data collection, we're starving them. Basically what they've done is they've taken away the meat options from the buffet, and what you're left with is the actual like corn vegetarian sausages that are actually all right, and sometimes are better quality than the other really cheap things. Basically, if you've ever been to like Sanctums, Havens, all these old ratting sites, they've got rocks in them. They've got a lot of rocks in them. they've got a lot of mining rocks in them, and those have not been touched. And the way that these sites work is you warp in, you run the site, you kill all the bad people, the warp in stop, the anomaly despawns, so the warping point despawns. But if you have people still in there, they can then warp in and keep mining away. So you have your super capital run the site, and you bring your rock crawlers and your mining barges in, and you mine down this site. And then when you're done with that, you go to your next haven and you chain these havens, and you have unlimited mining.
I mean,
And that for NullSec. In HiSec, you have unlimited mining in the sense of the emerging conduits. So you can literally just get someone to clear that, and you can mine as many sites and that as you want.
Same principle as the null ones, right? But these ones are same principle as the null ones with what you just said, right? They just keep respawning, keep respawning, keep respawning. You mine them out, and they just respawn. Oh, except the HiSec ones have all the minerals in them.
The HiSec ones have these. Yeah, these HiSec ones have these like special rocks that literally have everything you need. So you only have to mine one thing and you're good. Yeah, you don't get any refine bonus on it at all or anything. But the thing is, they're not starving the game, and this is. I mean, it didn't click for me. I saw it on a Reddit post, so congrats to the people who posted it on Reddit. But they're not starving the game. They're just taking away. Like, yeah, we've nerfed the belts, we've nerfed this, but these options are still available to people to go into mine and get as many minerals as they want. You can change. You could be mining 24/7 now. You don't have to worry about these really tiny rocks. You get these good size. But I think it's like 4 billion ISK per haven.
It's 4 billion per sanctum, and because it despawns, there's no roaming gang coming through instant. Oh, we'll go to the colossal because that's where all the rock calls will be.
Yeah,
you're off scan. Unless they've got a scanner with them, they can't find.
Yeah, you actually need to broke them out.
Like, to be fair,
ironically, you are safer now that CCP have made this chain.
Like, that's fair, because to be fair, the probing mechanic is so like shortchanged in terms of how much it gets used. There are not many people that actually combat probe to get their, their whaling or whatever. They just.
But what's your chance of actually going into a system, dropping probes, probing out a war crawl, and then warping to it and tackling it before that guy can warp off?
Well, rock walls have.
Well, they got that 5-minute cycle.
5-minute siege timer, yeah. So actually, chances are pretty good.
But the real issue is, which is more effort, doing that or just going to the next system and going to it?
Exactly.
Yeah,
not just that. How many FCs would know that? Right? How many FCs are going to know this and just skip the system?
Thanks.
Hey,
also, I would just like to take a moment here to correct Eric on something. The real breakthrough here today has not been Dirk's laundry; it's been stop action Dirk.
Hey, remember the magic hands magic trick that we used to do with clone base, where you can literally go to anywhere in the universe without any cooldown whatsoever, and that wasn't a problem until the goons started doing it.
Well, this has always been the way. Goons start doing things and shit gets nerfed. We break things and CCP go, oh, fuck, that's actually broken.
Drone bunnying wasn't broken until the goons started using it, so...
That reminds me, Ratati actually has experience in ISO standard work, so maybe he will appreciate the fact that Goons is used as a red team.
But yeah, if anyone wasn't around for the clone bay, effectively you set your medical clone to somewhere, and then you turned off the clone bay, suicided, and you're magically transported across the universe. and this was being done so people can jump between like dread catches to do a drop. You didn't have to worry about being on your cooldown timer or anything like that. And it was like, yeah, no, this is fine. This doesn't need addressing. And the goons start doing with full fleets, and everyone's like, yeah, maybe we should address this now that the goons are starting to do it. So that's why I want to tell everyone. So go out, go mine in these havens and sanctums, and then CCP would be like, shit, we need to address this. This is where someone chips in with some other part of conversation.
No, that's because we're stuck on the clam bake thing.
Yeah, I'm still like... yeah, did Mistwarden say clone bay or clam bake? I think you said clam bake.
Like clone, maybe?
No, clam.
I don't know, clams maybe.
Seafood bakes, yes.
I was watching a video of how Gordon Ramsay was like diving for scallops earlier, so seafood has been on my mind.
Is it time for me to talk about what's been aggravating me for the past week?
Please.
You mean we haven't done that already?
We only have 20 minutes left. Just
So, if people logged in the past week, you might have noticed some pretty obnoxious red dots on shit. And I really don't know what they've been thinking with this.
I hear that Dreadot is recruiting.
well, Soth, you were around for Gong Gate, right?
You know, Soth, I picked up an item out of a wreck yesterday, and there were 3 red dots on it, and when I opened up my cargo again, there were still those dots, and I couldn't
The thing
target
is,
painters.
if you actually if you take an item out of your ship and put it in your hangar, it gets a red dot because all of a sudden, oh, this is an item you haven't seen. Like I literally just took it out of my own ship. Are you serious?
If you take
Did you know, Sutherso, you have acquired an
take it
item?
out of the fit. If you take it out of the fitting and put it in the cargo hold for that ship, red dot. When you move it from the cargo hold to your hangar, red dot. When you move it from the hangar to the cargo hold, red dot. Every time it moves,
You have acquired an item.
Like this is
You have acquired an item.
this is just exactly what is wrong with CC. Someone comes up with like some kind of idea, and they implement it in the worst possible way, completely broken, useless, and obnoxious, and throw it at the players.
it's not even someone comes up with an idea. CCP tries to do what every other MMO out there does effortlessly. Oh, look, here we've got an indicator that says you've just acquired this item. You've never actually looked at it before. As soon as you interact with that item, that will never come up again. And they can't do it.
I swear to God, Arundus, I thought you were going to go... CCP fails to do what every other MMO manages to do effortlessly, which is finish a fucking project.
Well, there's that too.
I mean, the red dot kind of helps with new players with showing where stuff is, but you should have an option to turn it off. I mean, with the new ship, so if you start a new character and everything, you get given your starter ship. It doesn't actually have a mining laser in it. And when you go to do your first industry career missions, you need to go and do some mining. And so they give you a mining laser. So the red dot showing that it's in the item hangar, that's a good use of it.
Yeah, but the problem is, like,
now I know where to look, and I don't need a red dot again because it's told me it's in the item hangar. So I now know as a new player to look at this item hangar.
but the thing is, let's say you have your hangar open right in the middle of your screen. You're doing something on the left side. You've got like your items that are new marked with red dots because you need to know that. But let's say it is useful for you, right? You're doing something on the left side with your mouse. Now you remember, oh shit, I didn't set my clone yet. So you move your mouse from the left over to the right to the clone back, by chance hovering over 10 items and removing the red dot because you're moving over to the right side of the screen.
Okay, Sothershell definitely said clam bake there.
He said Clone Bay. Dirk, are you hungry?
Maybe.
There's no button to mark everything as seen, like you usually do with shit like this.
Worse than that, though, Soth. Because of the other fuck up they've done to inventory.
Oh dear.
It auto sorts. When you open stuff up, if you move things around, it auto sorts your inventory again. The whole thing frickin' moves so that it can put that item where it thinks it belongs. If you've got a stack of 10 items and an empty space next to it, and you pull one item off that stack and drop it into the empty space, the 9 items will move, not the 1, because it's auto sorting them and 1 comes before 9.
They didn't.
They did.
Fuck me.
Oh, no,
Really?
they didn't.
Like, how difficult is it to let people put things where they know they will be?
For days in breaking up a stack as I try to put contract.
Doesn't this segue us into the fact that they broke the comma separator
Oh,
again?
another thing that they broke. Yes, the comma separator.
Because
Just one more thing.
Because getting EU formatting right in a European country is hard.
Hey,
they
it's
just
very
Brexited.
hard.
The server is in
does it.
London. It's a Brexit deal.
Oh, there we go.
It would not surprise any of the Brits in this channel.
The server has
Honestly,
been forced to run on UK thing.
Honestly, if it was so hard, then like the fucking the finances of the entire world would fucking crumble down into nothingness. Like, it's not difficult. Just fucking get it right.
I mean, if we are talking about the difference between the American notation and the European notation, then no, it's not difficult. But there are more than those two.
There is an international standard.
Yeah, it's called use a fucking comma as your 1,000 separator.
Yes, exactly.
Also,
Not
don't
fucking
double
difficult.
space your sentences.
I just
It
I
fucking
just say that
blows
this
my
is
mind.
UK and US people talking about an international standard. That's irony.
I mean,
I
we did
really
conquer
like-
the
Well,
big-
to be
the
fair,
world, to be fair.
we're
And
most
then you
likely
lost
to
it
be the
afterwards,
people to
yeah.
actually set the standard. To be
Yeah, I
completely
mean,
fucking
let's
honest.
face it, between the US and the UK, over the last 70 years, we're the people who told everybody else how to do.
There's a reason why English is generally the sort of like standard language, international language of the world.
Yes, and it's,
It's kind of
entirely because if it had been French, the Quebecois would be even more insufferably smart.
oh Jesus, yeah. If it was French, then good God, like trying to figure out whether something's masculine or feminine. Jesus fucking Christ.
Especially
Understanding
the
whether
year
is
of
a comma,
2020.
like let's put it this way: is a
That
comma
last
masculine or
years
feminine?
is I don't think Napoleon was alive in the last 7 years.
I mean, I just want to point out that the Brits don't drive on the right-hand side of the road, so you're like, just Britain is correct. This is the thing. Britain is still correct. You
And
guys
also-
may have decided to be different, but we are still correct.
The only thing I'm asking myself here is what would the Americans have done to German if they have adopted German as their language? I mean, looking at what they've done to English.
Oh, they would have massacred it beyond all recognition.
Well, it'd be a lot easier to make short words instead of calling everything by names that have 15 syllables because you have to describe its entire freaking. I swear,
I always-
German
I'll
might
let you-
well be
I'll let you
Entish
know.
with more hard consonants.
I'll let you know that German is actually one of the languages that has a medium length per word. There are languages with far longer words out there than German.
Well,
You know-
to be
you know
fair,
what,
to be fair,
everyone-
German got destroyed because you lived too close to the Roman Empire. So it's really you actually got the language destroyed in a similar way that you're just talking about.
As it turned out, if you had a
oh,
channel, you'd get your
I
own
just-
language.
I'm
I
just
just wanna
letting
say-
you know here. I'm a northerner. They never got this far up north because we beat their asses.
that's
I just
true,
want to.
though.
I just
You
want to
got
say
that.
right now, okay. I just want to say right now, like horrendous. If you think that German is bad enough, like you should have the world adopt Welsh.
Or Finnish.
No, that's not
Okay,
a
the only
language.
problem the only problem with having the world adopt
Please,
Welsh
no.
as a common language is Welsh isn't the language. It's just kind of gibberish.
There are too many Y's and W's in Welsh for anybody to understand.
So we need to segue to food because we've not covered that today.
Have we not? Do we need to
No,
talk about
just the-
Sothersoul
just the
cider
cranberry.
cake again?
How has that not happened yet, Eric?
See, Eric is ill, so he's not been able to guide us towards Sothersoul cider cake. Like he's
It's
too
not
ill to
cider
even
cake.
think about cider cake.
It's not cider cake. It's reach around cake. Get it right.
Oh Christ!
That sounds like an initiative invention.
It does, yeah.
Oh dear. Sounds like McLeod's kind of invention, to be honest.
Hey, you don't know me.
Yeah, but I'm sure it would be
Categorically not
popular
true.
in initiative.
Cyber cake. Ooh, cyber cake. What do we think a cyber cake would be?
Metal shards.
I mean, layers and layers of something. Green.
Have you seen the red dots on Z keyboard?
Yes.
There are red dots on Z keyboard now?
Squiz is
dots
memeing
everywhere,
it like
man.
he did with Blackout.
Fucking Squiz. Like, that dude, you know, as much as he keeps telling me to turn off my ad blocker, he is actually quite a funny guy.
Where are these red dots? I don't see any.
Oh, go to the front page, Soth. Any new kill mails that come up on the live feed have a red dot. That's brilliant. Yeah, I really like that. That's cool.
I mean, kill mails are broken as well. I don't know if
Oh,
you've
God.
seen that.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, another thing.
Freaking.
There was a fax kill the other day that
Oh,
actually
that.
had. Yeah.
Yes.
Also, here, Soft, I'm gonna put something in the stream chat for you. All right,
All right.
Okay, so
there you go.
That's still
That-
not long
that-
enough. Not as long as the longest.
That is not an actual German word. Sorry to tell you that.
No, it's a sentence. But if German invented the word computer, it would just be take a sentence, get rid of the spaces. There you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to actually, before we have to stop and do one last thing, what Sothersoul was talking about, let's find that kill mail. Where is that kill mail, Sauce? What Sothersoul is talking about is a fax that had an interdiction probe launcher fit to it on its Z Killboard kill mail.
I got it.
Um,
And stuff.
Alright, I'll drop that in now. Also, I want to know who gave me permissions to like drop links in chat. That's cool. But yeah, basically, if you take a look at that kill mail, that's an Inazu that has an interdiction sphere launcher. It has Gatling autocannons that are loaded with armor energizing charges. It's very broken, to say the least.
when the connection to the
It's one of
internet's
those.
a bit weird. Weird things happen.
It's one of those. Like the longer you look at it, the more things you find that are wrong.
Yeah, you know, the medium shield extenders with Navy Cat Booster 3200s in them.
The Gatling cannon with armor energizing charge.
The classic, frigate-sized micro warp drive on it.
Somebody has just pointed out that it has a small rig on it. You know, again, thank you, Holy, for that wonderful. You know, as Seth was saying, the longer you look, the more things. And
I'm amazed there isn't a low slot in a mid slot at this point.
I mean,
So I'm going to be honest here. Are we sure it's CCP messing up kill mails and not Squiz having redone the server?
no.
And something gone wrong in-
This is on CCP side. What's happening is,
Okay.
if you look in the bay, you see that there was a Saber in its hangar. So what's happening is that it's taking the fit from the Saber and it's merging it on the fit of the Ninazu.
Yes.
It's an old bug, right?
But it checks out.
But it checks out. Yeah.
it's an old bug, and it still isn't fixed. If
It's
that
an old-
doesn't sum things up, what does?
I guess they never.
It's an
finished
old
that
bug, sir, but it still carries it. But it's still valid.
God's sakes, Holy is just knocking it out the park today.
Holy's fantastic all the time. Don't
It's
you
like
chat
the-
shit about Holy.
And is it the Washington experiment? Wasn't it? I thought it was something else. Or am I thinking of a book by a different name of the same idea?
Oh, that's not the Washington experiment. That's
Philadelphia, right?
Philadelphia. Yeah.
And we're back on the food.
Yeah. That's the Philadelphia experiment. But you were close.
Eric wants us to talk about cheesesteaks.
Just because you started talking about cheese.
Philadelphia cheesy fries. I heard that's the.
I
that is
got
a
news
thing.
for you, Caleb. We've been talking about Eve this whole time. We've been talking about cheese. Pure.
I mean, to be fair, I just came on to make sure that the segues are like butter smooth.
I mean, we were struggling with our segues there, so you've done really well, McLeod. Thank you.
I can't believe it's not butter.
Yeah, I mean, the segues were so smooth, no one can believe it's not butter.
I'd just like to point out that not only did McLeod bring the reach around, he also brought the butter. So
That reminds me.
No
there was
comment.
I think it was John.
It's
Hardy
always a party.
pinged out a video of. I can't believe it wasn't bait. It was a rock crawl that they had found, and they were like, "Right, we're gonna get baited. They're gonna bait us. Oh, we're gonna get dropped on here." And then just chewing through the rock crawl, burning through its cap. Now they're gonna drop the Sino any minute now. Any minute. Oh, it's in it. It's in hole. Any minute the Sino's coming. Oh no, it's dead.
Speaking of John and videos, all right, I would just like to say, missile doctrines are utter shit. We all.
Sacrileges were all.
Sacrileges are terrible. I don't know why anyone would use them in any way, shape, or form.
It's totally not like Horde just outnumbered us that time and they won because of that, right?
Have you seen the latest one?
You want about the one where we wiped them?
I just want to point
Got
out.
the one last night.
I just want to point out that missile doctrines are bad, and the only evidence you need for this is the Leviathan.
I don't know. The Leviathan is pretty tanky now.
It is
Yeah, but
very
that
tanky. now.
it doesn't gain that tank because of its awesome missiles.
No, but it's missile
Yeah,
doctrine. It's
exactly.
the only thing it can fit is missiles. Therefore, it's
What's
missile doctrine.
the faction
I mean-
levy?
The only thing that comes to mind for me is the Naglfar used to have missiles, and it was utter shit. And then CCP changed it to guns only. And ever since that changed, the Naglfar has been amazing.
Vertical supremacy.
Yeah, Mimitar used to have this big thing about having guns and missiles, didn't they?
Yeah, split weapon system. Great
Yeah.
idea, CCP.
Well, CCP are full of great ideas. We all know that. They
I
are the
remember-
best ideas.
I remember playing back in the day. I think it was a Cyclone that had its guns and a cheeky light missile launcher.
A cheeky light missile launcher. Is that like
Yeah,
a cheeky
cheeky-
Nando's?
Like a cheeky missile launcher just to take on the drone, take on
That-
the small stuff.
That was the Meta 3 name before the TSI.
I got a plot.
The Meta 3 name was Cheeky Nando's.
Yes.
If you're insisting.
Just cheeky fleet.
So yeah, all right. So I'm being poked about how we're starting to overrun. So, and well, Arendis has run already. He's got space meetings to get to. So yeah, one last thing. Let's start at the top, I guess. Bar Ghost.
Vertical supremacy.
All right, great. Short and sweet. Caleb.
Depletion delivered.
All right. We're gonna try and do the 2-word. One last thing then, I guess. Mistwarden.
Depletion not fully delivered.
Yeah, I'll allow it. McLeod.
Mind the red dot.
All right. Sothersil.
Warp drive active.
Eric's
right,
like doing his nut right now, kind of going, "What the fuck?"
All right, and my one last thing is Incarna process needed. All right, this has been Push to Talk. We've been here for an hour. We will catch you guys next week.
Later.
For the permit. I don't care if you buy a permit. Do you know how little I actually care if you have a permit?
Complaining about the fact that he received no support from that. I think Bode has some.
Yes, I
some
do.
leaks for us.
Oh, I got some leaks for you.
It's like simple shit like that. Nope, simple shit like that. If he can't answer that,
I need to break in because I need more original every week. That's a goal.
Do you really actually get paid for that? Because you deserve money for that last one. That one was a fun thing you set us.